So if you've seen the turnout to theatres and the numbers that movies have been making recently, it looks like theatres have not recovered from COVID. People were trying to say that Avatar was going to bring back theatres, the same with Top Gun, but that's clearly not the case. Now you've got DreamWorks with their new movie Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, which has flopped, and hard too. Makes sense with a name like that. The movie made about 17 million worldwide, but cost 70. So if this movie ever does make its money back, it won't be for like years of being on streaming services or any place that would want it. It's a bad look when even DreamWorks is struggling to make 100 million at the box office. Then you've got Elemental, another animated movie that's flopped, though this one's close to making its money back, costing about 200 million and earning 193 million. So this trend can even apply to some actors. The last two Ben Affleck movies were both flops. His movie Hypnotic actually broke his own record that went back to 1998, which was the worst opening he's ever had. Then he's also got the movie Air, which was also a flop. And then you've got Margot Robbie, whose last couple of movies I heard were also flops. What's funny about these two is the last couple of big things that they were actually in were both dog shit. The new Indiana Jones movie, which I didn't think would be any good, but I didn't expect it to flop, made about 70 million worldwide, but cost 300. I thought it'd be on the trend that a lot of these big franchise movies have been on, because it's rare these days for a modern adaptation to make less than the original, and this would be the lowest in the series, and the movie, good or not, would have made $1 billion not that long ago, pre-COVID. Which is a thing I've noticed, only one movie this year has actually crossed the $1 billion mark, and that was Super Mario Bros. I know it's only halfway through the year, but it wasn't that long ago when like every movie it seemed was making over $1 billion. Now I think we're finally moving towards the end of the box office, probably not theatres altogether, but most of which are going to close down soon anyway. AMC theatres were close to closing not that long ago. I feel like these companies and theatres alike would benefit from bigger movies in the theatres, but franchise fatigue is showing that it doesn't matter how much money that they put into these established franchise movies, that it's no longer going to work unconditionally. During COVID, this whole thing would have made sense, but now it doesn't look good. Outside of COVID, I don't know, this has to be like one of the worst years. Actually, looking at yearly worldwide box office, this year would be the third lowest grossing year for movies this century, and if you go off calendar gross, it's the same, they're third again. It's possible that it beats the year 2000 and ends up being fourth, but still, that's not a good look, especially since we just had the highest grossing decade for box office in history, where every year from 2012 to 2019, the box office grossed over $30 billion, reaching its peak in 2019, which you'd think would be surprising because of how people have been talking about theatres falling off for a while now. But if you've been paying attention, almost every big movie that you can think of from the last decade was close to or over $1 billion. Even Skyfall, an action movie from a franchise that's been around for like 60 years, made over $1 billion. I was kind of surprised by 2019 being the biggest, but it makes sense with the Avengers Endgame and probably 100 other superhero movies. That was also the year that The Joker came out, the biggest R-rated movie ever, which also made $1 billion. But we haven't gone back to this trend yet, and who knows if we ever will. It's like as soon as theaters showed a little give, the whole thing just collapsed. It's funny because it's a double-edged sword, at least for these companies. People want new shit to watch, and not the same shit that they were just watching, but these companies aren't going to risk making new things that they aren't sure are going to make money. But that's exactly what they need to do, which is finally take a risk, show some balls, make something original, or at least something that isn't rehashed shit. It doesn't look good when you put so much money into a movie and then it completely flops, especially when it comes from an established franchise. I mean, that's the whole reason why they picked up these franchises to begin with. It's to make money, and they see these franchises as a sure way to make money, so when it flops like it did in the case of Indiana Jones, what the fuck are they actually supposed to do now? The movies aren't cheap either. Damn near every movie costs around $200 million to make now, but the movie quality doesn't really reflect that, and it's not like they need to pay that kind of money to begin with, though a lot of that money goes to advertising, but still. So, franchise fatigue and rehashed shit is just one reason for all of this, but there's a bunch of other reasons, streaming being a big one. Why watch something in a theatre when you can watch it a few months later on a streaming service? The old thinking was, ticket prices are high, so let's just wait for the DVD to come out, and then we can own it. But now you don't even need to do that. You pay a subscription, and you get more out of it than you would for paying the ticket price, and even more content than owning the DVD. Plus, why would you go to a movie when the food there costs more than the ticket price? Though, to be fair, no one really goes to a theatre and doesn't sneak food in. So I don't know, are we finally going to make original content again a revolution in movies? Or are we going to continue making bullshit until no one shows up to theatres again? I think theatres are going to eventually become big event things. I don't mean that they're actually coming back. I mean, maybe they keep open a few theatres, just so they can play the next Avatar movie or whatever the fuck they want to bring out. Or they just open up for film festivals or some shit like that. Or maybe they just die in the West, and these companies focus all of their attention exclusively on China. Who really knows, but clearly theaters aren't making the return like everyone thought they would.